Hey guys, for Dr. Isaiah, let's talk about the several variations of our HK thrust. So with our HK thrust, the basic component and understanding of this drill is it's starting to get the athlete to familiarize themselves with what goes on, either during what the back leg motion is doing. So the initial, if this was my rear leg, I'm a right-handed pitcher, getting the feeling of actually driving with that back foot and getting our hips moving through our foot interaction. Or if we have kids who start to really or right already don't drive very well with that right leg, getting them to understand the sensation and feeling of what it feels like to really get through your foot into your glutes. So basic concept, we can be against the wall. You can have it actually on your bucket if it's reversed over. So if you flip your bucket over, you can put your foot there. But our key concepts, just like our corkscrew lunge, we're gonna remain with the knee outside the pinky toe. And then when we set that back foot, remember, we're always internally rotating. So knee is out over the pinky toe. And then when I get against the wall, I'm also rotating this hip in. So this heel would be out, or the foot that's on the wall, that heel would kind of flip away to let us know that the hip's rotating and we're feeling that hip socket burn. So once I get against the wall, I want to get in a pretty comfortable position where I can feel just about knee over my arch, over the red zone, so the outside foot, calcaneal foot, fourth and fifth toe, into the transverse arch. So when I'm pushing through here, I want to create the energy with that back foot, okay? And so when that happens, as I push, notice this hip continues that internal rotation and that heel flips out even more. What that means and how that's just locomotion. So if I'm moving and I was here, if I were externally rotated and I were driving off that hip, notice how I finish in internal rotation. That's that spiral we're always talking about. Learning to work through the hip socket and really get the femur moving with the glute so that the foot and the glute dominate your motion, not the knee. So, second thing we're looking at here, with our HK thrust, it really sets us up if we're using our rear leg. So whether you're right or left-handed, if it's your stride leg, really setting us up for the understanding that when I drive through my foot to get to my butt, if my butt's gonna go horizontal, my knee has to go down, because as the pelvis moves horizontally, the femur has to make way for it. So when we attack this motion, we should see the knee drive down because the pelvis is starting to go through. And the understanding of that concept is really, say I'm a left-handed pitcher, I'm in my stance. If I'm gonna put energy into my feet, my knee shifts down to create the ability for me to get to my hips. And you see the pole represent my pelvis going from tilting at a downward tilted angle to horizontal so that I can get to that thrust motion. So our HK thrust, if I'm right-handed, I coil over to that right side. If you don't have an athlete that's comfortable with coiling yet, they can be straight, but heel out, knee over the pinky toe, and then I'm driving into that motion. Knee attacks the ground. Notice the alignment of my spine. I'm matching this front foot, because if I were driving, this would be the moment where I drop down and go from that foot. So, HK thrust from the wall. Boom. That's how we set up. Either leg, same concept. Drive it, okay? We can use it either way. If I have a kid with a back leg impairment and they're not really using that back leg, we use this to get them familiar with it. So you put the stride leg on. If I have a kid who's banging the back leg and they need be a little faster driving that front foot and they need to get that sensation, I put the right leg on there and I'm driving the hips again. But I'm talking to them and detailing in them why we're doing this drill and where it comes out in their pitching motion, so that they understand that what we find outside of pitching is so that we can find it inside of pitching as well. That is the wall HK thrust. The other variation that you saw was the Queen of the Hill HK thrust. When we're using the Queen of the Hill, we have an added incentive to really start to get to understand the front foot pulls the hip into place. So if I'm a right-handed pitcher and I'm doing the HK thrust with the queen of the hill, I'm letting the athlete focus on pulling into the queen to help that motion, to help drive. And so the click you hear is because the athlete pulls with the hamstring. Because remember, in our pitching motion, if I'm right-handed and I'm here, I have push, pull, push. Because this right leg, or whatever your front leg is, has to go through a full cycle of energy of getting the hamstring to pull the hip over the arch and then push to finish that horizontal thrust. So using the queen of the hill helps get the athlete to understand that when the back foot, if I'm a right-handed pitcher, my left foot, the back foot, as it pushes, front foot is pulling so that it gets you in position to bang, drive off of it. Those are the two variations of our HK thrust. You can use wall, put your foot on a bucket, or when we use the queen of the hill, be sure we try to use it more towards our natural stance. So if you're right-handed, your right leg's on the queen. If you're left-handed, your left leg's on the queen. Really focusing on activating that hamstring as we push with our rear leg. That's HK thrust.